And Esther the queen, seized with deathly anxiety, fled to Yahuwah. She took off her splendid apparel and put on the garments of distress and mourning. And instead of costly perfumes, she covered her head with ashes and dung. And she utterly humbled her body, and every part that she loved to adorn she covered with her tangled hair. And she prayed to Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, and said, Yahuwah, you only are our King. Help us who am alone, and have no helper but you. For my danger is in my hand. Ever since I was born, I have heard in the tribe of my family that you, O Yahuwah, did take Israel out of all the nations and our fathers from among all their ancestors for an everlasting inheritance, and that you did do for them all that you did promise. And now we have sinned before you, and you have given us into the hands of our enemies, because we glorified their gods. You are righteous, O Yahuwah. And now they are not satisfied that we are in bitter slavery, but they have covenanted with the idols to abolish what your mouth has ordained, and to destroy your inheritance, to stop the mouth of those who praise you, and to quench your altar and the glory of your house, to open the mouths of the nations for the praise of vain idols, and to magnify forever a mortal king. O Yahuwah, do not surrender your scepter to what has no being, and do not let them mock at our downfall, but turn their plan against themselves, and make an example of the man who began this against us. Remember, O Yahuwah, make yourself known in this time of our affliction, and give me courage, O King of the gods and Master of all dominion. Put eloquent speech in my mouth before the lion, and turn his heart to hate the man who is fighting against us, so that there may be an end of him and those who agree with him. But save us by your hand, and help me who am alone, and have no helper but you, O Yahuwah. You have knowledge of all things, and you know that I hate the splendor of the wicked, and abhor the bed of the uncircumcised and of any alien. You know my necessity, that I abhor the sign of my proud position, which is upon my head on the days when I appear in public. I abhor it like a minstrel's rag, and I do not wear it on the days when I am at leisure. And your servant has not eaten at Haman's table, and I have not honored the king's feast, or drunk the wine of the libations. Your servant has had no joy since the day that I was brought here until now, except in you, O Yahuwah Elohim of Abraham. O Yahuwah, whose might is over all, hear the voice of the despairing, and save us from the hands of evildoers, and save me from my fear.
Queen Esther the Benjamite, the Jewish, who passed for black. The three most famous queens in Scripture descended from Ham. The first queen mentioned in Scripture is the Queen of Sheba, who ruled the Ethiopians and Yemenites. She was referred to by Jesus Christ as the Queen of the South. The second queen was the Canaanite princess Jezebel, who became queen of Israel through an unlawful marriage with Israel's king Ahab. And she struck terror in the heart of Elijah, God's powerful Old Testament prophet. The third black queen was called the Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, and she is mentioned in the New Testament's book of Acts. However, there was another queen in Scripture, camouflaged in black skin. She was a Jewish virgin. The Scriptures detail her life in an entire book of the Bible that bears her name. The black-skinned Jewish known as Esther the Queen or Queen Esther. Theologians readily point out that the book of Esther does not mention the word God. However, his unseen hand is evident throughout its pages. Romans 1 verse 20, Hebrews 11 verse 27. The story begins with a king named Ahasuerus, Xerxes. Now in the days of Ahasuerus, this Ahasuerus, which reigned from India even unto Ethiopia over 127 provinces. Esther 1:1. According to Scripture, this king reigned from India to Africa. Esther 1:1. He had a wife named Vashti, who was a beautiful woman of color from one of his provinces. King Ahasuerus threw a royal feast, and after having too much to drink, he ordered his beautiful wife to come before him, and his male guests wearing only her royal crown. Vashti refused. His guests pushed him into punishing her by stating that when the women of his kingdom hear that their queen did not obey the king, they would become ungovernable towards their husbands. Therefore, the king removed Vashti as queen and ordered a search throughout his provinces for the most beautiful virgin who would become his new queen. Ahasuerus' provinces included the kingdom of Babylon, formerly governed by Ham's grandson Nimrod, and later Nebuchadnezzar, the Amorite king of the Chaldees. Archaeologists found a stone carving this successor of Nebuchadnezzar, Ahasuerus, as a crown prince standing behind his father, King Darius, seated on a throne. Behind Ahasuerus is a median and two attendants. The stone image depicts them all with nappy head and facial hair in tight circular ringlets, a trait peculiar to the Negro race. See figure 13 if you have the book. The search for a bride for this king stretched from India to Ethiopia, provinces filled with black women. India was established by descendants of Ham's son called Cushans, named after Cush, black founder of Ethiopia, that adjoined India when Pangaea was united. When looking at India on our maps today, we see the Hindu Kush mountains that once belonged to the Kushan Empire of melanin Asians, black Asians that dominated northern India through Pakistan. Like Kushites, Ethiopians, Indians, people are dark-skinned people of color that reside on the lower peninsula of southern Asia. Hence the name melanin Asians or Melanesia, meaning black islands, which include Polynesia and Micronesia. They have silky hair akin to that of Caucasians. Among his provinces filled with women of color was a beautiful Jewish from the tribe of Benjamin, the darker-skinned tribe of the Hebrews. Her name was Hadassah. Her mother and father had died, and her uncle Mordecai, who called her Esther, was raising her. Esther 2, verses 5 through 7. Mordecai was a Jew from the tribe of Benjamin that had been carried away from Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar's invaders. He brought up Hadassah, that is, Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful, whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own daughter. Esther 2, verses 6 through 7. Abingdon Strong's exhaustive concordance of the Bible defines this word fair as to be beautiful, beauty, comely, fair. Esther was dark-skinned, as were Benjamites. Recall that the men of Benjamin had to marry the dancing black virgins of Canaan to keep their tribe in existence. After all, their women were slaughtered, and all other Jewish tribes swore to God that they would not let their Jewish women marry any of the 600 surviving men from the tribe of Benjamin. Therefore, with this infusion of Ham's blood by the virgins of Canaan into this Jewish tribe's gene pool, the Benjamites became dark-skinned Jews. Esther's uncle Mordecai wisely told Esther to conceal her Jewish lineage. Thus, in the company of beautiful black virgins gathered from Ethiopia to India, Mordecai ordered his niece Esther to pass for black in order to fit in. Esther 2, chapter 10.